Happy Monday, students. This is Miss Louise. I hope you had a great Mother's Day. Today, we're going to talk about this giant jug that's sitting in front of you that looks red, but it's really about what it's holding. It's holding water. And I wanted to read you a nonfiction text. Remember, nonfiction are books that have facts in them, and they are true. So the things that you hear today are honestly the truth. But I want to give you a couple of facts before we start reading the book on water. Water is one of the major important to all living things. So it's of major importance. Everything in the earth needs water. Some organisms in the earth, up to 90% of their body weight comes from water. 60% of human adult body is water. So that's talking about us. We need water because our brain and our heart is composed of about 73% water, and the lungs are composed of about 83% water. So we really need those important organs, the brain, the heart, the lungs, to keep moving while we're here on this earth. So I need you to think about water, drinking it, and using it the proper way. So the book that I'm going to read to you today is called The Water Cycle. Okay? It's the water cycle. And maybe you've heard this before in your classrooms, so this might just be a review. The Water Cycle by Helen Frost. Okay? Now this is a nonfiction text, and you're going to see some different parts of the text. The first part you're going to see is the table of content. That was the title page with the picture. But this is a table of contents. And this tells you where you can find important facts. If you were just looking for one thing and didn't want to read the entire book, you could go to the water cycle and look on page 21, and it would tell you things about the water cycle. Okay? But we're going to read the whole entire book today. All right, let's look at this. It's not a real photograph, is it? No. It's more like a drawing, okay? Diagram. And what it's saying is water moves and changes in the water cycle. And it's telling us that a cycle has no beginning and no end. So as you see the arrows, it just continues over and over and over again. That's the water cycle. That's what cycle means. Has no beginning and no end. Now, some water is in oceans, lakes, and rivers, and some water is underground. At one time, the entire earth was covered by water, and the Bible speaks of that. And then God spoke, and things began to go into their proper places and separate from other parts. And that's why some parts have water, some parts have land. Oh, that's a beautiful picture. The sun heats water. So you know how you put a pot on a stove and the heat starts to change that water, and it starts to get hotter and hotter the longer you keep it on the stove. Well, the sun heats water. So when the sun is very hot, or when it's hot in the summertime, the water is warmer. It's not too warm in the wintertime because the sun doesn't seem as hot, but it's always hot. So heat changes water from liquid into a vapor. So when you're boiling that water on the stove and you look up and you see something that looks like smoke and it's really steam, that's a vapor. And all of this action of change is called evaporation. So now we're seeing real photographs, not diagrams, in this nonfiction text. So water vapor rises into the air. See the arrows? So it's a drawing and a real photo. And the water vapor is a gas that you cannot see. Okay? So outside, we don't have a stove and we're putting water on it or anything. It's just the sun beaming down, and the water starts to heat up, and then the vapor, sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't, and then it turns into a gas, changing form. And now, as it moves up, water vapor cools as it rises. So as it goes up, it gets colder or a little cool. And the water vapor turns back into a liquid. And this action is called condensation. So from the heated water to the invisible gas vapor, and then it gets a little cool, and then it's called condensation. And guess where it goes? You're absolutely right. Condensation can form clouds. So clouds are really dust and tiny drops of water. So today when you look up in the sky, just think about that. That's the water that was down here, and it just moved up into the sky. So what is that called again? Condensation. Clouds. And then water from the clouds can fall to the ground as precipitation. Rain and snow are two kinds of precipitation. So when you hear that word on the news with the weathermen, you know when they say precipitation, you know that it's going to be either rain or snow or sleet or hail. The clouds get really full with the water and the dust, and they burst. And that's when we get our precipitation. Can't hold it anymore because water is everywhere. And then, let's look at this nice photograph. Some precipitation soaks into the ground, and some precipitation falls into oceans and lakes and rivers. So when the clouds get full and they burst and it begins to rain, that rain goes back into the ocean, into the rivers. You see puddles on the ground. Plants get fed, all kinds of stuff. Look at this beautiful photograph. Water moves from the ground to the air. The water falls down to the ground in a different place. And the water cycle goes on forever. Forever we've been doing this water cycle. Okay? And in these nonfiction texts, they always have words to know, like a glossary in the back. So they have the words that we covered: condensation, cycle, evaporation, precipitation, soak, and water vapor. And then you may have an index or something that tells you where you can find certain words. This is what nonfiction texts have in them, some of them. But that's our nonfiction text today. It was about water. You can also find other books about keeping water clean, water as a gas, water as a liquid, water as a solid, the water cycle, and we need water. We definitely need water. So now you know a little bit about the water cycle and how important water is. So now what I want you to do is to go drink a glass of water, and don't forget to wash your hands, okay? Read to you tomorrow. This is Miss Louise coming from the Reading House. Bye-bye.